Who is Wilhelm Röpke? Wilhelm Röpke was an economist from Germany who devoted his scholarly career to combating collectivism in economic, social, and political theory. As a student and proponent of the Austrian school, he contributed to its theoretical structure and political vision, warning of the dangers of political consolidation and underscoring the connection between culture and economic systems. More than any other Austrian of his time, he explored the ethical foundations of a market-based social order. Röpke was born on October 10, 1899, in the German village of Schwarmstedt. His parents saw to it that he was classically educated and brought him up in the Protestant Christian tradition that emphasized the dignity of the human person. In his book, A Humane Economy, he explains that his picture of man was fashioned by the spiritual heritage of the classical and Christian tradition. I see in man the likeness of God. I am profoundly convinced that it is an appalling sin to reduce man to a means, even in the name of high-sounding phrases, and that each man's soul is something unique, irreplaceable, priceless, in comparison with which all other things are as naught. I am attached to a humanism which is rooted in these convictions and which regards man as the child and image of God, but not as God himself, to be idolized as he is by the hubris of a false and atheist humanism. This understanding of man was to have an enormous effect on Röpke's subsequent understanding of the social sciences, economic policy, and political theory. Throughout his life's work, he opposed collectivism and centralization of power in all of its forms. Serving in the German army during World War I, he was shocked by the sheer brutality of war, and it had a profound effect on his life. He became, in his words, a fervent hater of war, of brutal and stupid national pride, of the greed for domination, and of every collective outrage against ethics. Röpke initially blamed war on capitalist imperialism and was drawn towards socialism as its only alternative. But he had a change of mind after reading Ludwig von Mises's Nation, State, and Economy, published in 1919. That work, Röpke said, was in many ways the redeeming answer to the many questions tormenting a young man who had just come back from the trenches. Röpke pursued the study of economics and sociology, becoming a full professor at the University of Marburg in 1929. Following the political victories of the Nazis in 1932, his uncompromising opposition to fascism earned him the honor of being one of the first professors to be forced out of his position. Röpke left Marburg for Frankfurt and in early 1933 gave a public address entitled The End of an Era, which was highly critical of the Nazis. Soon afterward, he and his family left his homeland. He eventually accepted a position at the Institute of International Studies in Geneva, Switzerland in 1937. And there he joined Ludwig von Mises, who had been part of the Institute's faculty since 1934. Although Mises left Geneva for the United States in 1940 following the beginning of World War II, Röpke chose to stay and remained at the Institute until his death in 1966. Röpke's early work outlined themes that would reoccur throughout his career: the curse of collectivism and scientism, and the central importance of a moral and social institutions that sustain the free society. His 1931 article, The Intellectuals and Fascism, protested against the anti-capitalistic intelligentsia who were using the worldwide depression to pave the way for natural socialism. The so-called capitalism that the anti-capitalists rail against, he wrote, was not the free market, but state corporatism, characterized by sporadic interventions and government business partnerships. He noted that in order to refloat the economy, whose functioning has been so largely impaired by past interventions, those same critics of capitalism clamor for more interventions, more planning, and hence a further emasculation of our economy. It is as though one poured sand into an engine and then hoped to start it up again by pouring in more sand. In his 1935 article, Fascism, Röpke explained that fascism is not an alternative to the free market and communism. He observed, fascist economics has nothing new to offer, whether in practice or in theory. The present position of our economic system is certainly untenable, but the alleged alternative which fascist economics seems to present is no real alternative at all. He identified it as merely another form of authoritarianism that sought to combine its general totalitarianism with the individualistic character of society. In A Humane Economy, Röpke additionally argued that fascism has a grave moral defect. It fails to recognize the person as the key social unit. Fascism ignores the individual soul and is socialism's close cousin because it exults in the idolatry of the state. In the post-war West, Röpke saw Keynesian economics as paving the way to collectivism. For him, the Keynesian program was destructive in both its economic and moral consequences. In a 1952 critique of the United Nations report on national and international measures for full employment, Röpke warned that if governments keep interest rates perpetually low, as Keynesians recommended, chronic inflation is a necessary consequence. Röpke foresaw that a fully implemented so-called full employment policy would result in stagflation, which the United States experienced in the 1970s. Additionally, Röpke developed a theory of repressed inflation based on Austrian theories of interventionism and economic calculation. The government monetary authorities first inflate the money supply and then impose price controls and other regulations in order to mitigate the following rise in prices. This only makes things worse because market prices are crucial for rational economic planning on the part of entrepreneurs. As he explained in his article, Repressed Inflation, regulated prices do not reflect actual economic values, and the economy becomes riddled with bottlenecks, sporadic unemployment, and general economic chaos. This repressed inflation was a major feature of post-war European economies. In a Humane Economy, Röpke explained that inflation was merely a Keynesian means for transferring wealth. New money always enters the economy in the hands of particular individuals. They are the first ones to spend the new money, making their purchases at the original price levels. And as the new money works itself through the economy, however, increased demands for goods result in increased prices. Those who receive the new money later, or not at all, must pay higher prices and incur a decrease in their real wealth. Explaining this Austrian insight within its ethical framework, Röpke argued that this amounts to little more than legalized theft and immoral wealth redistribution. For Röpke, however, Keynes's positivistic scientific method was an even more damaging part of his legacy. In the final 1963 edition of the Economics of the Free Society, he argued that Keynes and his followers saw the economic system as part of a mathematical, mechanical universe, with economic activity being the product of quantifiable aggregates such as consumption and investment, instead of a result of actions by individuals. Keynes took the human out of human action and reduced the economic system to a machine. Man became a mere social unit, merely reacting to changed conditions according to economic instincts. According to Röpke, Keynesian economists who make gross national product their highest end are advocating an economic variant of scientism. It is a scientism that leads to collectivism because it uses government coercion to tax funds from individuals in the name of growing the economy. As he writes in his article, The Economics of Full Employment, economic policy would thus indeed attain the dignity of engineering without regard to the fact that society can never be made into a machine, nor can statistics succeed morality as a guide to behavior or policy. During and following World War II, Röpke broadened his research interests beyond economic theory and into cultural and even religiously based analytics. His resulting critique of modern society developed out of his conviction that trends in the sciences and politics were undermining and destroying the idea of the individual soul and replacing it with the concept of mass man. Röpke set out to defend liberty against leftist criticism by highlighting the fundamental social problem man has to face. How can conflicting interests in society be successfully harmonized? He argued in a Humane Economy that freedom and voluntary exchange are crucial if the conflicting interests of different parties are to be coordinated peacefully. For a society to take advantage of the division of labor, it is necessary to have an institutional framework that allows for a freely adjusting price mechanism and the private ownership of the tools of production and competition. Such is the only modern economic system that maintains the integrity of the individual person. Additionally, all market activity, international or otherwise, presupposes a moral, social, and institutional framework. In order for individuals to retain their freedoms, continually expand the division of labor, and live full lives, they must own property, embrace family and community, participate in civic associations and churches, and enjoy the security of certain traditions. As Röpke argues in A Humane Economy, the market economy, and with social and political freedom, can thrive only as part and under the protection of a bourgeois system. This implies the existence of a society in which certain fundamentals are respected and color the whole network of social relationships. individual effort and responsibility, absolute norms and values, independence based on ownership, prudence and daring, calculating and saving, responsibility for one's own life, proper coherence with the community, family feeling, a sense of tradition, and the succession of generations combined with an open-minded view of the present and the future, proper tension between individual and community, firm moral discipline, respect for the value of money, the courage to grapple on one's own with life and its uncertainties, a sense of the natural order of things, and a firm scale of values. From his earliest years, Wilhelm Röpke fought collectivist and statist power in every way an intellectual could. His tools included not only economic theory, but also a vision of moral goodness rooted in the Christian faith. As F.A. Hayek said of Röpke, "Let me at least emphasize a special gift for which we, his colleagues, admire him, particularly, perhaps because it is so rare among scholars. His courage, his moral courage. If we are concerned about fostering societies where people can indeed live more humane lives, Röpke's contributions to Austrian economics and his vision of the good society deserve close attention."
For more content like this, visit Mises.org.